take the stage.
Well, our next session will be the Farm to Everywhere panel, featuring Danielle Raucheisen. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Raucheisen and Debbi Timson from the Growing Minds program at ASAP, and Virginia Hamilton from Hickory Nut Gap Farm. They will be joined by moderator Rachel Candaso, the 2025 North Carolina Teacher of the Year. So everyone, please take the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you had a delicious lunch and you got some tunes after. I am so excited to be here with you all today. As a resident of Martin County, agriculture is at the heart of our community, and I'm excited to share a little bit about the travel that I have done as State Teacher of the Year and how I've seen the change that fresh food and nutrition programs can bring to our kids. I have visited cafeterias, participating in Farm to School, and even advocated next to Senator Chaudhary and Superintendent Taylor of Wake County Public Schools about the benefits of fresh local produce for our students. This session is about Farm to School and similar programs that connect education centers across the state with fresh local produce. Fresh vegetables and fruit that are grown by North Carolina farmers, packaged and processed right here at home. Today, we are making a case not just for Farm to School or Farm to Preschool or Farm to ECE. Today, we are taking the stage for Farm to Everywhere. The benefits of child health and learning and the benefits to our local farmers and economy are just too obvious to ignore. These programs are a win-win-win. They help kids eat better, they help farmers sell more of what they grow, and they keep food dollars circulating in our local economies. So let's learn more about the success of these programs and where they are heading next from some of our local community partners. Let's go ahead and start. We'll go this way with Growing Minds. Please start by introducing yourself, your role in the food system, and the farm programs that you represent.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Danielle Raucheisen, and I work at Appalachian Sustainable Agriculture Project, or ASAP for short, a nonprofit based here in Asheville. We serve the southern Appalachian region of western North Carolina and bordering states, and our mission is to help local farms thrive, link farmers to markets and supporters, and build healthy communities through connections to local food. I'm the director of the Growing Minds Farm to School program within ASAP, and I'm pictured here. Oh, I don't have the picture. There we go. You see Debbi right here next to me, and then we also have Susie on our team here in the audience supporting us. The vision of Growing Minds is that children of all ages learn about and have positive experiences with local food and farms in the classroom, cafeteria, and community. We work with K-12 schools as well as early care and education, or ECE, or childcare, or preschool, any one of those. But for make things simple today, we're just going to be referring to them all as schools. So our role in the food system is helping schools plan, implement, and sustain farm-to-school activities. We do that by, one, improving systems. This includes participating in some statewide groups, the North Carolina Farm to Preschool Network, and the Farm to School Coalition of North Carolina to drive changes at the state level. So I would think of this as our top-down work. And then we work to build capacity. I think of this as our bottom-up work. This includes providing training and support and resources to schools and partners to help them on their farm-to-school journey. And finally, we really make connections with the people in the community that is serving the schools, bringing that all together. So connecting schools with each other for peer learning, as well as with partners in the community who can be boots on the ground. So there's no one right way to do farm to school, and it really should look different depending on the school's unique assets and needs. But we think of farm to school as including at least one of these three components. We have edible gardens, farm experiences, and local food, which is what we're here to talk about today. Oh, you have your own.
She doesn't want to share.
Hi, I'm Debbi Timson. I'm one of the Growing Minds program coordinators with ASAP. And my work is centered on early care and education, or as Danielle said, ECE. This year, one of my programs that I'm working on is deep diving with my Farm to ECE Academy. I have 8 centers across Western North Carolina that I'm working on to customize and help them implement farm to school programming. I also am very excited to talk about AFFF. Blah, 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 blah. It is called Appalachian Farms Feeding Families. And this came about after the horrific hurricane we had. But out of the ashes came funders wanting to support our farmers. And through this program, we were able to pair, is it up there? Woohoo! You're good, whoever's back there. We were able to pair 37 local farmers with 46 child care centers across 17 counties, affecting 3,000 kiddos and putting $80,000 plus into the pockets of our local farmers to help them rebuild. So that has all been in with it just 1 year, and we're still going. So this program is just an amazing piece of our work that we do every day. I guess you're going to ask another question?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and have Virginia introduce herself first.
Hey y'all, I'm Virginia Hamilton. I'm the Director of Operations at Hickory Nut Gap Farm, which is in Fairview, which is about 25 minutes from here. And I'm in a unique position where I get to work with, farm-to-school programs, but I also get to bring the schools to the farm, so I get to do both, which is awesome. Hickory Nut Gap Farm is a pretty small 5th-generation family farm that's currently a pasture-based livestock operation, so I'm on the protein side of things in this conversation. So we've got cattle, pigs, chickens, turkeys, layer hens for eggs. And we're also the home of the Hickory Nut Gap Farms brand, which specializes in 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef and pasture-raised pork. And that brand really grew out of the idea that, we had all these really good grass-fed beef producers that were in these more rural counties, and the Asheville area was really growing at the time. And so we're working with like a collective of beef producers and pork producers in order to meet the demand of that supply chain, which is pretty awesome. And building community through agriculture has been the mission statement of the company since it started about 25 years ago. And we continue to do that through a variety of means, events, field trips, customers coming out to the store, all that good stuff. And my role, I get to work with the wholesale team to use the farm to tell the story of local protein, ecological agriculture, agriculture that benefits animals, people, farmers and consumers, and the environment. And then I also get to have a bunch of kids out to the farm every year for field trips, and I'm usually the person leading those. So for some kids, I might be their first introduction to where their food comes from.
Debbi, Danielle, Virginia, thank you for sharing. And we know that your work impacts kids. But Virginia, could you tell us more about which foods are sent to schools by Hickory Nut Gap and more about the kids visiting the farm? What does that experience look like?
Totally. So Hickory Nut Gap Farms has been with the Farm to Schools program for a pretty long time at this point. We are supplying up to, at the max, about 8,000 pounds of ground beef to the county school system a month, which is a lot. Thank you. I feel like farmers don't get a lot of applause usually, but I'll soak it up. And so that, feels really good to us, and the beef producer community, like those guys love to hear about how we serve Hickory Nut Gap beef for school lunches around here. They really love that. And so we are also providing like a high quality and very nutrient dense product in those school lunches. Grass-fed beef is up to 5 times higher in omega-3s, up to twice as high in CLAs or conjugated linoleic acid. And we've also got some good evidence that you can have higher protein, lower omega-6s, which are like the bad fats. and then higher vitamin A and E. And we all know that when people, not just kids, are well fed, their brains work better, they feel more regulated. And so we get to be part of that from the protein side of things. And then as far as when we have students out to the farm, so we're on about 70 acres, and we've got sort of a core campus, I like to call it, where the store is, and there's a big covered barn, and we usually keep some pigs and some chickens nearby. And so I'll usually get a request from a teacher or a group of teachers. And these are kids that are in school, whether it's public school, a private school, charter school, homeschool groups, et cetera. And we work together to come up with what we want to kind of talk about during that tour. And so for the little guys, they get to come, pet a baby chicken, and they get to ride the tricycles around. And we start there, and then all the way up to high schoolers who might have just read, a Michael Pollan book, and they really want to talk about where food comes from and why it's important for them to be thinking about that. So I really kind of handle all of that. And I really like doing that because we get children from, all backgrounds out on the farm, and they get to be a farm kid for a couple hours and be outside, which I know is really important. And just getting to see them make those connections about where, the food on their plate comes from land and comes from people who work really hard to produce it, and that's pretty magical.
Thank you so much. Let's hear from Debbi or Danielle. What are kids learning about their local food system through Growing Minds?
Thank you. So as you can see up here, this is one of my ECE sites that we actually paired with Lee's One Fortune Farm through the AFFF program. But you can see the kiddos there growing their corn, harvesting their corn, preparing their corn. They actually made Mexican street corn for this meal, which there's a large Hispanic families in that center. And so it was really nice for them to be able to make that dish together. And it was paired with some fresh peaches from Lee's One Fortune Farm. Let's see. Next slide, I think. Okay. Sorry, we didn't practice with the slides. What do we got? Oh, okay. So this is one of the, this was actually the nutrition director at Burke County Schools, which was paired with One Lee's Fortune Farm. She said that the most important thing about having our own garden is teaching children where their fruits and vegetables come from. And as we know, it doesn't just show up in the refrigerator, and that's part of our job is to teach the kids where their food is coming from, and that those farmers that are growing their food live in their communities and building those partnerships up. She also went on to say children are more likely to try something that they have been a part of growing, which is very true. If they grew it and took care of it and harvested it and helped to cook it, they're more likely to try it. And another thing she said was there are so many skills children can learn from helping in the garden and socializing with friends, and that is so true. Anything that can be taught in the classroom can be taught out in the garden. Math, science, even emotional learning, social emotional learning for kids, engaging with their classmates outside in a different way. She ended it by saying, I love the big smiles when a child finds a cucumber, a strawberry, or pulls an ear of corn from the stalk. Above all, as we know, farm to school brings joy, and don't we all need a little bit of joy in our lives?
All right. Can you go back? Wait, which? Sorry, I'm looking for, there we go. Yeah, that one. So this came from a cook at a child care, and I think it really speaks to the community aspect of farm to school. So she said, the children love that there are real farmers in our community that take care of, grow, harvest, and bring them food. It is a beautiful way to teach them how valuable community is and everyone in it, especially because it guides their attention toward people they don't interact with normally and fosters a sense of collaboration and connection. So Farm to School shows kids that they're a part of something. They're part of their local food system, that their food isn't being grown a world away, but in their very own backyard by their neighbors, And that's exciting for a lot of kids. You know, they see their farmer and it's like they just saw a celebrity. So it's something that really kind of makes the world a little bit smaller for them. And then going back to that, yes, the parent quote. So this was a quote from a parent of a child who participated in Farm to School, saying, "We got to taste carrots today. My daughter has spent 3 years in this program, and our yard has transformed into a food forest pollinator heaven. The other day, she took a cooking class and made popsicles, so we had to make popsicles at home, and she led the entire activity, making strawberry rhubarb and mint popsicles, all from our yard." So I think one of the biggest impacts of Farm to School is the ripple effect it has on families. Kids come home from school and talk about what they did in the garden that day, or what fresh foods they ate or cooked with. They want to start their own garden, or want to participate in cooking more, visit a farmer's market. And then it becomes a family affair, and you have the parents, the ones who are actually doing the food shopping and food preparation, who are now active participants in their local food system because of their children and what they're doing in school.
Thank you so much for making that connection that children are getting to access food in their own backyard, right? It's not some big idea that they don't understand. They get to see it live. Could you tell us more, Debbi and Danielle, about the reimbursement incentives, the food hubs, and other tactics that you use to help sites purchase these local food?
Yeah, so I also wanted to highlight, I know that the economic piece of local food purchasing is a primary concern for farmers. But, especially for a lot of small farmers out here in the West, they also value that community connection and feeling connected to their community. So one of the farmers that we worked with said that it's special to be a part of providing healthy food directly to my community. So we try to tap into that and really start with building relationships. So we do a lot of work in both K-12 and in childcare. In K-12, we work with school nutrition directors in helping find farmers who can supply, the products they need at the volume they need. I'm going to talk a little bit more about childcare right now. One way we're doing this is holding grower-buyer meetings at food hubs here in Western North Carolina. So we have 2 coming up this spring where food hub staff, childcare staff, and farmers from the community will learn more about each other, the different systems that they all operate in. So Jennifer talked about CACFP. I think that is something that how can farmers kind of be part of that transaction? And then hopefully walk away with a plan for getting local food in childcare. So that might be through the food hub or directly from the farmer. It really depends on the unique needs of the childcare program. Also working with the North Carolina Farm to Preschool Network and with the support of the North Carolina Alliance for Health to develop a plan for a statewide local food purchasing incentive program. So these types of programs provide additional funding to incentivize local food purchases in school settings. We conducted 20 interviews over the fall and winter with food hubs, statewide agencies and organizations, and other states who are doing similar programs to help inform the development of our own plan. So this is long-term systems level work, as you all know, but if all goes well, hopefully we'll have a little extra funding for childcare programs to help them purchase locally and not feel constrained by their budgets.
Thank you for sharing. Virginia, we'd love to hear your perspective from the business side. How does Farm to School support farms just like Hickory Nut Gap?
So the Farm to School program is not an insignificant source of pretty steady revenue for us, which is important. So, the same number of kids are going to school every day, hopefully, and so those are some pretty steady purchase orders for us. And then there's the ripple effect because we're a cooperative of farmers. So, the 25 plus other family farms that work with us, they also get to keep that land in agriculture, keep in business, get paid a really fair price for their product. And I think if we're thinking big picture there, that keeps all that land in agriculture, which I think is probably the most important way that we can strengthen the state's long-term food security. That's probably the biggest effect that it has.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So we've talked about the present day, but I'd love to hear from all of you about what's next. What is next to achieve Farm to Everywhere? Where do you think new partnerships can help us grow?
Well, after a year of working with AFFF program, we learned a few things. Communication is key. The farms and the ECE sites that we're bringing together, for them to come up with a plan, that knowing that there needs to be some flexibility within that time frame. We found out that second lesson learned is that going to a CSA model, a community supported agriculture model, worked better for some of the sites than purchasing wholesale. So then that way they could use some of those boxes for their snacks and their meals, but then families could also benefit by taking that home with them. So what the kids are learning in school, they're being able to bring home and be able to cook with their families. The other thing that we learned is that partnerships being made prior to the growing season helped with them talking to one another, finding out what the ECE site would like, what the farmers could grow for them, and that just made things a lot easier. We also are providing farm opportunities to engage with the school communities. For example, we have something we call a Sprout Market. It's a pop-up market that happens at the ECE site. It could be during pickup time. There's different ways that folks do it. So we have a farmer come and set up a produce stand, and then the families come through with farmer bucks, and the kids and the families can purchase food, get to talk to their local farmer, and continue to build those relationships that Danielle was talking about that the farmers really enjoy. We also are highlighting, I'm supposed to highlight something, sorry. I think there's a chart, previous slide. Oops. There we go. I just wanted to highlight that when we did our surveys, once the pairings were finished, spending down their funding, one of the top reasons that the ECE sites wanted to purchase from their local farmer is just to support those farmers, keeping the money here, keeping the money with the farmers. And why not? Western North Carolina rocks. We have so many amazing farmers, and we are able to do this, and it has worked, and we're just going to continue to move that forward. But also training. Training is a big piece of it. There's a lot of folks that are like Jennifer and Rachel were talking about CACFP, the Child and Adult Care Food Program. They don't even know that there's a farm to CACFP. Farm to CACFP helps them to purchase local. There's reimbursement to purchase local foods, to have their edible gardens, to do farm to school activities. So that's something that we do at ASAP Growing Minds, is teaching those ECE sites that that is available to them to continue to purchase even when the funding runs out. And of course, the training for the farmers as well. And we bring in partners like Extension to help them understand how to best work with their child care programs in their areas.
Yeah, and I just want to maybe touch on the more heartfelt piece of this work. When I first moved here 4 years ago, let me first say, this picture is of a little boy at Cherokee Central School's pre-K rolling Darnell Farm strawberries to the classroom. And it reminded me of when I first took this job, and I had just moved to North Carolina. We were doing another event at another preschool on the Qualla boundary, and I had bit into a strawberry, and it was like I had never tasted a strawberry before. I felt like every other strawberry I had, which was not local, could not compare to the taste of this strawberry. And so that was really my hook for Farm to School, that really showed that, if you give kids fresh, local food and taste, how delicious it is, it's really hard to go back. And for me, if we can get school staff and students and families to have that experience of local food, to visit a farmer's market on a beautiful summer day and see their neighbors and see the rainbow of colors on the tables, to visit an orchard and take an apple right off the tree, to bite into a strawberry, then they're going to see the value of local. They're going to see the value of supporting the farmers in their community, and then they're going to be the new generation that makes Farm to Everywhere happen.
All right. I've got kind of three main ways that I think we can get closer to Farm to Everywhere, which I love that phrase. It's great. So I think the first thing is that we need to keep support rolling for these programs. We've laid some incredible groundwork. Those are great frameworks that we can lean on and use to build other models elsewhere. Like I think, the next frontier for me is something similar that's doing this in hospitals or, care facilities, things like that. And when we keep pumping the brakes and jerking these programs around, we lose momentum and traction, and that momentum is so valuable, and every time we have to restart or retool something, it slows down the progress that we've made together. And I think we need to figure out a way to separate these programs from the whims of donors and whatever parties in power at the time. They're important enough that they need to be continuously funded and taken care of. Thanks. And then number two, something that we deal with a lot is we need to be incentivizing and supporting independently owned regional food infrastructure. So we can't feed students if we can't get the food to the schools. And when there's food rotting in a field because we didn't have the labor or the trucking to get it to these cafeterias, that's squandering a massive resource, and it's a big shame. And that can include everything from, refrigeration, shared refrigeration facilities, transportation, trucking, processing and slaughter facilities, and packaging infrastructure too, packing houses. So the more we can get those pieces in place, the easier it's going to be to do this large-scale distribution that we're working on together. And then my last note is I think we've got a lot of space to advocate for each other, the farming community and the food and nutrition community. And I think the biggest ways that we can do that, or what I would ask you guys to take away, is working on farmland preservation and farmer advocacy. I swear I've never been applauded so much. So farmland is rapidly disappearing, and it scares me. NC FarmLink estimates that North Carolina is going to lose 1.7 million acres of farmland by 2040, and that should kind of horrify all of us as people who think a lot about food. We're also number one in the nation for farmland loss to low-density housing development. Number one. And that's happening mostly in the corridor kind of between Charlotte and Raleigh. Those are the areas that are the most vulnerable right now. And, farm to school or farm to table just doesn't actually work without the farm part. When we lose farmland, we can't get it back. It's literally impossible. So when we grade out a site to build these developments that, are often planned in a way that doesn't encourage community or community connection, we don't get them back ever, and that's a big deal. And so I also think that high-tech food production is never going to replace soil-based agriculture. And like I said earlier, this is a state and national security issue, farmland loss. So advocating together to support farmland preservation programs and also legal avenues for non-familial succession. So how do we get farmland from these old guys that are ready to retire into the hands of people like me? That's the best way we're gonna keep food security in this country, and we don't have a way to do that right now. I think if we're advocating for that together with the angle that by preserving this farmland, we're also preserving these farm-to-school programs, we're gonna go far. Farmland also increases climate resilience, so especially after Hurricane Helene, we really saw that floodplains that can function as they're intended, so floodplains that give space for water to rise, spread out, slow down, floodplains with permeable soils, those can really mitigate some of the damage that more residential or commercial areas see in big flooding. So yes, me and my friends had to bear the brunt of some of that damage, but I'm happy to do that if it means we're saving lives downstream. And when we pave those places, they cease to function. And so that's going to be really important just as we continue down this weird road we're on of really changing weather. And right now, you think about Swannanoa, which was one of the towns that got impacted the most by the hurricane. And the biggest historic floodplain upstream of that town is a warehouse and a parking lot. And I guarantee you that had something to do with the amount of devastation that they experienced. And then I think the other piece to this is legislation and programming that supports agricultural workers and farmers. And so, this can be like I said, it feels really good to get applause, right? I don't know if you guys knew this, but farmers are 3.5 times more likely to kill themselves than other professions. And the big cause of that, like the number one reported cause of distress, is financial stress. And I think a lot of that financial stress is manufactured by policy that supports corporate interests and not the interest of small business owners. And so I think between advocating for farmland preservation and advocating for the people that are stewarding that land, we're going to go far together.
Thank you so much. Wow. Thank you, Debbi, Danielle, and Virginia for sharing your insight, whether it was personal stories or just your industry perspective and bringing that to the table here. Our call to action for the child hunger leaders in this room is to support the expansion of these programs. We know Sunbucks is coming back, but we also need to expand our farm to school programs. And just last year, the NC House included $2.5 million for farm to school in its draft budget. We need to let everyone know how much of a difference that funding can make for our children, our farmers, and for our community. It's a small investment with a big return, and it already has bipartisan support. So that's the start. Let's go ahead and bring farm to everywhere as a reality. Thank you all so much for having them, and can we give them another round of applause?